What's up? I'm Sam, and I want to share some of my take after being a real estate agent for 1 year. Some of my kind of expectations versus reality, if you will. So, real quick, I became a real estate agent in kind of a unique time. I got my license as I was moving from Colorado to Florida at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. And this is a kind of a crazy time to just leave a W 2 job, start your own business, which you are your own business if you are a real estate agent, and make this move in a new area. But I came in pretty hungry, so I want to share some of what my initial expectations were and kind of how my business is now that I'm a little over a year into it. My first expectation was that I was going to be seeking out business through very traditional means like cold calling, sending mail, knocking on doors, networking events. And I was willing to do those kind of things. I was willing to put myself out there and try for that. But when it came down to it, cold calling is pretty scary if you've never done it. Calling someone and asking if you can help them or asking or acting like you can solve their problem, it's very difficult. It's hard to find a unique balance in what that looks like. And I found some unique ways to cold call where people were kind of initiating the first contact with me through some ads, and then I was reaching out to them. But they were still pretty shocked to receive a call from me. A lot of people don't answer. A lot of people hang up on you. A lot of people just say that they were curious about a house and that they didn't actually want to talk to anybody. And all of that rejection and conversation is fine, but it was actually just more difficult. It was harder to be motivated to do those kind of touches than I expected. And now the way that I generate leads is actually very different than what I expected that I would have to do. I have a YouTube channel that talks about the area I'm in, talks about the cost of living, pros and cons, and stuff like that. And that generates a lot of real estate leads for me. All right, the number two expectation that I had was that it's easy after you get the client. That the hardest part is to get the lead or to get the client to agree to work with you. And I was so wrong about that. It's actually really hard, like once you have clients, because they all have different expectations. They all treat you differently, talk to you differently, and they all have their own timeline in mind. But more than all of those things, they also have objections in mind. They don't want to make certain compromises, or they want things to be done a certain way, and they don't always communicate that. So you're constantly kind of reevaluating what they're thinking and what they're expecting and trying to, be that. And when you're a new agent, you're working with anybody you can. You're just trying to get some deals done, get a few experiences under your belt, and those clients can really kind of run you through the ringer. All right, my third expectation was that clients would care that I was new. Like they would think, oh, he doesn't have enough experience to do this, and I want to look for someone with more experience. But I mostly found that clients don't really know that I'm new unless I present that information to them. But now the way that I'm generating leads through YouTube, I'm adding value and then people are contacting me. So it really never comes up because people have received some kind of value before I ask for their business and before they contact me. So they feel like they can trust me in a different way. They're not asking how many deals have you closed? How long have you been a realtor? In my videos, I'm sharing I moved to Florida a year ago. So, they might ask questions around that. But I'm also adding so much value that they feel like they can trust me. All right, the fourth expectation I had was that I needed to seem like a realtor. And realtor is a protected, copyrighted term, the National Association of Realtors. And this term just kind of had some connotation to me, whether it was that people wore blazers or they handed out their business cards all the time, or they just sold in a certain way all the time. And I know people like this that are always kind of selling. They're always, bringing attention back to what they do. And this helps them generate business among their friends and family, the people they come into contact with. And I just had it in my mind that to do this job, you have to do it this way. And I was wrong. I was very wrong about that. You can really do it however you want. You can really structure it however you want. There's so many ways to make money within the business, whether you're doing deals yourself or building a team or referring deals out. If you're good at a certain aspect of it, you can really focus on that. And if you're really good at generating leads, if you're really good at building systems, then there's ways to grow it to where you're not the realtor. And even the agents that are working with you don't have to fit that certain mold. And I think in general, younger people, say under 40, don't really expect people to be that older model of what a realtor looked like. I have had some older people tell me that they miss how realtors used to be. Whenever I'm like showing them stuff on my phone, they're like, "Where's the printout?" And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't print it out. Like, we didn't need to do that for this." And so not everybody is okay with the way that the industry is evolving or the way that I'm evolving it in my business, but most people really are. Okay, number 5, and I ran into this one a few times before I was able to correct it. And the expectation that I had was that listing agents or the cooperating agent in the deal knew more than I did. So I would often come very humbly to them and, request information, ask these questions, talk to them about the negotiation, about the contract that we were presenting. And I was coming in a posture of humility. I was assuming that they knew more than me. I didn't want to stick my foot in my mouth. I didn't want to seem like an idiot. I didn't want to seem like this like overly ambitious young guy, which I have been accused of being at times. So I just assumed that they knew more. But I often found out that they didn't. They maybe knew more, that maybe they'd done more deals, so they knew more like semantic kind of language. But when it came to negotiating, when it came to creative problem solving, I consistently am able to come to solutions that other people don't come to and present them in a way that makes it seem like I have quite a bit more experience than others do. I'm not saying that I'm a better realtor in any way because of this, but what I'm doing is just steering into a strength that I have from other jobs. And you have strengths from other jobs as well that you can really bring into being a realtor. Okay, number 6 on the list was that I thought I needed to be reachable all the time. And when you're new into this, and I didn't have another job at first, this was my one and only thing, I was okay with being reachable all the time, because I was doing anything I could to get a client, to get them closed, to make money, but also to learn lessons through that contract period and through that searching for a home period. But now that I'm at the end of my first year of being an agent, I can look back and see where I started to pivot this behavior. I started to just establish more boundaries of, if I'm under contract with a client, then I'm going to be very responsive to them. But typically they know that I'm having dinner with my family at this time. And if I just text them back and say, "Hey, I'll call you in a little bit," they're okay with that. Another thing that's really important in this is actually informing your clients how is the best way to get a hold of you. I often tell people like, "Hey, send me a text saying call me when you have a chance." And just tell people that is the best way to get my attention, and I will get back to you as fast as I can. And when you give people like specific ways to get a hold of you, they're more than willing to follow them, and they appreciate the structure that you've created for them. Another way that I make myself more reachable in a way that I like is with apps like Calendly. So I can send out a link to a new lead and say, "Hey, do you want to set up a call on my calendar? These are the times I have available." And people really like that. And sometimes people ask for a time that's not on there, and I can accommodate for that. But that first initial step, so there's not the back and forth of like, how about this time, or a bunch of like phone tag where you're missing calls and you're missing them, and that is all a hassle that nobody has to deal with nowadays. One thing I also want to point out is that all these systems work when you build trust with a client or lead, and if they know that you have their interest in mind, then they're not trying to just get a hold of you to tell you what to do for them. They are trying to get a hold of you to ask your opinion or to process something with you, and that is a way different relationship. That's more of a friendly relationship where we accept that this person might be busy when I call it. I don't just expect that they have a receptionist that's there answering every single call all times of the day, and they'll stop treating you that way once you build that relationship. All right, and number 7, the last one for this video. There's plenty more expectations that I had that maybe I'll get to in other videos. But number 7 was that I have to keep every single client. Every person that reaches out to me, I want to get them closed. And that's not a bad goal, but some people you just don't click with. Some people reach out, they have different expectations about how the relationship is going to work. And it's better to just move on from them. And when I say move on, I mean refer them to another agent and still get paid on it. So I'm not thinking about just like saying, please don't call me again, but just saying like, hey, I'm so sorry. I don't have the capacity to bring on another client right now. I would love to connect you with this other agent that I partner with. And if you ever run into any kind of issues, reach out to me and I can, help overcome some of that stuff. Just being the resource that connects people to other people or connects people to a possible solution to their problem is really, really valuable and something that people appreciate. If somebody's moving across the country, they're reaching out to me because they don't know anybody in the area usually, and they especially don't know someone that they trust to manage this big transaction for them. So they're reaching out to me to see, can I trust this person? And by coming up with some solution, even if it's not the perfect solution to their problem, I've built some trust. And this is just a basic rule for me, that if someone reaches out to me and they're like bossy with me, or they just like tell me what to do, I'll try to like establish some kind of system of like, hey, this is how I need to be reached, or this is what we need to do moving forward. And if they just repeatedly ignore me and they don't listen to what I'm doing, or they don't listen to what I'm recommending, I have people that just talk over me and don't actually like acknowledge that I'm trying to talk. In those situations, I have a very clear boundary, just myself, because I'm not going to be taxed by these people. I can connect them with somebody else, or I can just, if it's really early in the process, I might just not even elect to work with them. And that, it's not an easy conversation to have, to say like, hey, I don't think this is going to be a good fit. Like, I think maybe you should look for another realtor. That's a really hard thing to say, but I just think about like how much emotional and mental traffic it saves me, and it's so valuable to me. It's also very empowering as a business owner to deny service to somebody. And it's not, you're just denying service to somebody because you don't like the way that they are treating you. That's a very good reason to deny service. And this kind of goes into one of the big ways I think about my business and how I interact with clients, that my clients are my partners and they're not my bosses. And I'm not their boss, and I'm not their problem solver. We are partners trying to achieve one thing. Like, we are trying to solve a problem together, and building that relationship in that way is actually really, really valuable and makes the process a lot easier. Thanks for coming by. If you want to follow more content like this, don't forget to subscribe down below. I'll be doing weekly videos, hopefully indefinitely. See you soon.